Now, race to the White House is getting on its last lap. U.S. presidential elections are scheduled for the 5th of November. Former President Donald Trump versus Vice President Kamala Harris. Both the candidates are campaigning in full swing. DD India's Amritpal Singh has more.
With just weeks left for November 5th, the day Americans vote to elect their new president, election campaigning here in the United States has reached a feverish pitch, with both candidates, Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, crisscrossing the country in a last-minute bid to woo the voter, often trading barbs, making personal attacks, making tall promises, in Kamala Harris's case, doling out last-minute sops to woo the voter. I'm here right now at the famed Golden Gate Bridge of San Francisco. I took a stroll across this bridge to interact with the Americans, to read their mind, to understand what they think, what matters most to them as they prepare to vote on that Super Tuesday. And this is what they had to say.
I think there's a few issues that really matter, but at the top of my mind is like the Democrats' response to Israel-Gaza. I think the ongoing humanitarian crisis has really soured my perspective of the Democrats, unfortunately. And I think that's difficult to imagine that like a Trump term would be worse given just like how much of a crisis the Middle East is in right now.
There's a greater issue in reproductive rights when it comes to the two electees. I was talking about how there is a big polarizing factor between red states and blue states, and in Florida right now there's a very difficult time in getting abortions. It doesn't matter how old you are and what your circumstances if you don't get it within.
With inflation skyrocketing and the cost of living crisis worsening in the United States, according to the latest Pew research, 81% of the Americans say that inflation and economy will be a key factor in deciding their vote.
The economy, expenses, the border.
What about the economy?
Everything's too expensive.
Okay.
It's going up. Bidenomics is not working.
I think to have education is a right. And it should not be a privilege. I mean, there are people that could be in my place right now that would probably do a lot more, but they can't afford it. So, yeah.
The biggest issue really just has to do with the economy. One thing we've been seeing a lot in the markets recently is just food prices going up, but wages not matching that. So I think making sure wages are affordable for everybody, people can afford their food, people can sustain their families. I think that's a big issue that factors into my voting choices.
One of the more explosive issues in this election season has been the issue of immigration, one of Donald Trump's key favorites. He continues to vilify immigrants in his rallies and debates, calling them rapists and murderers, while Kamala Harris has taken a more nuanced position, calling for a border security bill.
Well, for me, it's our national security. I think especially in this era, the U.S. needs to take national security in a different degree than it has in the past 20 or 30 years. I want a party that has a clear and cogent path forward with our border in Mexico, as well as our whole immigration policy. I think there's tons of people, really talented people trying to get here legally, and I think if we were able to capture some of those people, it would be incredibly powerful for us. So anyone who's thinking strategically about our immigration advantage would be huge.
So you heard the Americans. Come November 5th, and we'll get to know what the Americans decide for themselves. But one thing is certain, this election is important for both candidates. On the one hand, Kamala Harris has set her sights on becoming the first female president of the United States. On the other hand, Donald Trump is attempting a feat only once achieved in U.S. history, regaining White House after losing it. With cameraman Sanjay Jaina, this is Amritpal Singh for DD India in San Francisco.